Well, folks, Donald Trump finally came out and said it this weekend. Making fun of him should be illegal. Now, this is something we have expected, for this administration to make into actual policy at any given point during his presidency, because after all, Donald Trump is the thinnest-skinned, biggest pansy we have ever seen serving as president of the United States, and even the most mild of criticisms towards him make him go off on social media and cry like a little baby. Donald Trump is, as I've repeatedly said, a whiny little bitch. He always has been, and he always will be. And yet, for some reason, these MAGA, absolute delusional MAGA freaks think he's like the biggest tough guy on the planet. He is the most pathetic human being that cannot take any mockery whatsoever. So yeah, this past weekend, he suggested that Seth Meyer is breaking the law by mocking him on his late night show. I will read you Donald Trump's little meltdown on Truth Social in just a moment, but first a quick word from today's video sponsor. By now you know Trump's big beautiful bill has passed, but almost no one's reporting how ICE will get nearly $40 billion of our tax money each year, making it the most heavily funded law enforcement agency in U.S. history. That's more money than most nations spend on their entire military. So much of our media is either missing the worst of this bill or twisting the language so you think it's all in your best interest. But we've seen the ICE raids ramping up. Now Trump's openly threatening to deport U.S. citizens. This should be the biggest story in America, yet it's buried. Making ground news essential right now is what all of this is doing. They're the only tool I've found exposing these blind spots in the media. By gathering the world's news in one place, organizing it by story, then analyzing just how far right and radical each unbiased source actually is, you get way more context than you ever would anywhere else. If we're being honest, we've seen Trump's power grabs throughout history. They said never again, and that means never again everywhere. And right now, it's happening here. So if you want to stay ahead on immigration, the economy, or simply finding the stories missing from your news feeds, Ground News has you covered. Their app and website is a smarter, more reliable way to stay informed at a time when MAGA is banking on us to stay distracted. So I've partnered with them to get you 40% off the same Vantage plan that I have been using. That comes out to $5 a month for unlimited access to everything I've mentioned and so much more. Just go to ground.news/Farron or scan the QR code to subscribe. With at least another 4 years of this, we can't afford to miss these details. So our thin-skinned President Baby Pants decided to get on Truth Social on this weekend after, I guess, watching a TiVoed version of Seth Meyer's episode from a few days prior, where he did make fun of Donald Trump, because that's what late night hosts do. They make fun of current leaders and current events and things like that. That's how it's been throughout the entirety of late night television, through the history of comedy. It's what they do. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican in charge. They're going to make fun of them because people like that and they laugh at it and it's topical and timely. But Trump is the first president who can't take it whatsoever. I mean, even Richard Nixon and George W. Bush, for all the mockery they got, they never once reacted this way. But Donald Trump reacts this way constantly, and here's what he said about Seth Meyer over the weekend. Seth Meyer of NBC may be the least talented person to perform live in the history of television. In fact, he may be the worst to perform live or otherwise. I watched his show the other night for the first time in years. First of all, that's a lie. You watch it frequently because you frequently have meltdowns about it, at least once a month. In it, he talked endlessly about electric catapults on aircraft carriers, which I complain about as not being as good as much less expensive steam catapults. On and on he went, a truly deranged lunatic. Why does NBC waste its time and money on a guy like this? No talent, no ratings, 100% anti-Trump, which is probably illegal. Okay, yeah, there's definitely a deranged lunatic as part of this story, but it's definitely not Seth Meyers. It's you thin-skinned, whiny baby bitch. That's what you are. And I love saying it because I think it needs to be said more. Let's just call him President Baby Bitch from now on, because that's what he is. It's not illegal in any way for anyone to mock anyone else in this country for anything. Now, depending on what you're mocking them for, could get you canceled, sure. So be careful with that. But we do still, at the moment, maybe tomorrow is going to be different, but as of right this second, we still have freedom of speech here in the United States. I don't imagine that's going to last much longer. Donald Trump definitely wants to be a fascist dictator, and one of the characteristics of fascist dictatorships is you cannot in any way criticize the leadership of the country. Look at Saudi Arabia. A year or so ago, they beheaded over 200 people, most of whom had only criticized the kingdom on Twitter. And they died. They were killed by that Saudi Arabian regime for criticizing or even mocking the regime. Vladimir Putin, you mock him over in Russia, next thing you know, you're falling out a 12-story window. That seems to be their preferred method of getting rid of people. And in North Korea, they, of course, I believe, still have the 3 generations of punishment where you're going to be sent off to a work camp where your children and your children's children will also be confined if you criticize the government. I don't know which method Donald Trump will institute here in the United States. Maybe we'll have beheadings, maybe we're all going to be paraded off the Empire State Building, or maybe we'll be sent to camps. But he has plenty of options to choose from, and given the fact that he is just a thin-skinned, whiny little president baby bitch, he's probably going to come up with some kind of punishment for those of us who dare criticize the horrible decisions he makes on a daily basis. Thanks for watching, everyone. We're inching closer and closer to 1 million subscribers, and we're aiming to hit that goal before the year closes. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thanks for joining us as we head towards this huge milestone.